to this apparently special fancy dress edition of the book club. I'm Ian, this is Mira.
Hello!
We talk about Warhammer books, and today we have a Warhammer book that is a new release.
Super new.
Super new. In fact, it's the first Warhammer book that someone's contacted us and gone, do you want to read this book when it comes out? Not us going, please let us read this book when it comes out.
We're legitimate now.
We're legit,
Woo-hoo.
And so to honour that, we have very quickly at the last minute decided to dress as Catachans. I'm sorry, or you're very lucky if you're doing this on a podcast, which does exist. But we have decided that we make very good, massive, beefy Catachans.
Catachans,
right,
yeah.
Okay, look. So I have been saying the word Catachan since the release of the Catachans in 1994. And at some point in the last 5 or 10 years, it became Catachan.
Yep.
And I will forget that.
Also, I have to say, if you hang out with me, your pronunciations just get terrible anyway.
Yeah. So I will be using both of those interchangeably through this. I've forgotten to say the name of the book. Today we are talking about
DEATHWORLDER,
which we would hold up. We've actually got an ebook, so we can't. DEATHWORLDER by Victoria Hayward, a new book, and also Victoria's first full-length novel for the Black Library. She's done shorts before, but this is her first full-length one.
We've booked an interview with her also.
We have booked an interview with her, which, if we get the scheduling right, probably has already been posted. It should come out before this, because one of the things we should say, this is a brand new book. We appreciate that not many people will have read it. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't been on one of these before, spoilers. We're going to tell you what happens in the book.
Yeah.
That's how these work. So if you haven't read it, but you're going to...
Spoilers, hazard tape.
I don't care about spoilers. I've never been anyone who cares about spoilers. I just don't care if someone tells me what happens. But I appreciate some people do.
Yeah.
So, if you do, maybe watch this later.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so, DEATHWORLDER. DEATHWORLDER is a book about Catachans. I got it right.
Is it?
Well,
it's a book about Tyranids.
It's a book about getting et.
Yeah, it is.
It is. And lots of the main characters are Catachan, and obviously they all dress like us.
Yeah. Luckily, Ian and I both had our Bruce Willis style white vests with us today.
With us today. It's nice outside, so we thought we'd go for a jaunt in the jungle and get spored to death.
Yeah.
So, Mira, before we start this, let us start in the traditional way. How would you describe this book in the form of an action movie plot summary, which is very appropriate because the first half of this book is an action movie.
In a world like you have never seen before, a revolting mass of slathering gene stealers and Tyranids and disgusting Xenos scum everywhere, which is on the brink of death, and you will probably not likely survive with the least hope of many of the books we've ever read. Join a hearty band of survivors who are whittled down further and further as they travel through jungles, abandoned cities, where danger lurks around every corner, as do spores.
There's a lot of spores in this book.
There's so many spores in this book. It's Spore Quest. You too will cry and weep as the combat takes out the people that we love, but will a brave Mechanicum help them? Join us on this actual action movie.
Real action movie
book.
Action movie book.
As we try to stay alive in DEATHWORLDER.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's it. Right.
Oh
and
my
then,
gosh.
That's basically what happens. And then as we go, I feel like this breaks the Catachanness of this, but we've got some tea to drink. So first we'll pour the tea, which is now a thing we do. We've got some, just to completely ruin the vibe, we have some Russian Caravan style Prince Vladimir tea from Kuzmi, poured out of a pot into some... all our pop mugs today are themed with Nightmare Before Christmas.
Let's raise your mug a little bit.
Nightmare Before Christmas mug, there we are.
Okay.
And there we go. And I'll do
you do me?
Yeah, good. So, your Night Before Christmas mug significantly more impressive than mine. There you go. Some of that out. And then, I never know if this is loud enough to be ASMR.
What? Say the name of the tea again.
It's Prince Vladimir from Kuzmi tea. It's like a Russian Caravan Earl Grey sort of thing.
We do like a smoky tea, Ian and I. We like a Russian Caravan, but also we need tea because sometimes The content of these books is so distressing.
Yeah, I'll just grab a paintbrush to stir that with.
Yay!
There we go.
What kind of paintbrush is that,
That
Ian?
is a Citadel cheapo brush, a starter brush from Citadel. That's what we're
A
stirring our tea
starter,
brush
not
today.
a starters brush.
So there we go. We've done the rituals. We've done the intro. We've done the spoiler warning. You've done an action movie plot summary.
Yeah.
We've poured the tea. We're dressed like Catachans. It is now time to go through the plot. So in this book, we find ourselves on the gem planet of Lazuli.
It's so pretty.
It's really pretty. It was once really pretty, and they keep on saying how once it was really pretty.
Because it was bioengineered to just burst out with gemstones everywhere.
Gems everywhere.
But now it's not pretty.
It's not pretty anymore because it's in the
smelly.
It's very smelly, and it points out how smelly it is now because it's in the final stages of a Tyranid infestation.
Yep.
And we're talking about like there is no hope for this planet.
We're
anymore.
talking about open the front door, see all the cockroaches, close the front door, burn it down.
Yeah, that's the level of the planet. But unfortunately, they have been trying to fight for it, just not very successfully. So on this world are some Imperial Guard.
Not a space marine in sight.
And we get a bit of backstory. We meet our first and main character of this, Major Wolf Khan, the badass Catachan.
She's so hardcore.
She's really hardcore.
Yes.
She's every like hardcore, jaded. Well, she has a really good line in inspiring speeches for a jaded badass. She's got a few of them.
No one left behind.
Yeah, she's that sort of person. Yeah. So everything's a major. She only speaks in badass speeches and complaining, and she gives us the backstory, which is basically that this world had bred soft, indolent people who hadn't realised the galaxy was at war, who had themselves let in the aliens and doomed their own planet. They deserved to die. It was a shame she and her troops would die with them.
Oof. I mean, let's talk about war movies and the foreshadowing. They may as well go, "Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing you when I get home, son."
She's definitely going to die. And so basically the Lazuli have been they have been at some point they got Gene Stealer culted.
They've been Gene Stealer up to the eyeballs,
and
Ian.
it's like very Gene Stealer culty. And the Gene Stealers obviously created a psychic beacon which summoned the Tyranids, and the Tyranids have now nommed the planet to death. And the Guard are on it, and the Guard are like, "You fucking idiots! It was your fault. Why am I here defending this planet?"
Yeah, we are hurled straight into the middle of the combat. Basically, the Cadians are trying to. It's like the last stand. It's like a last fortress.
Yeah,
or something.
they're in all these. There's a string of fortresses that are named after gemstones. I can't remember. I think this is Cobalt Fortress, and then the Opal Fortress is where they're going to go. And they're sharing. Basically, they're sharing the defense with Cadians. This is Cadians post the fall of Cadia. So Cadia's gone, and they're the remnants of the Cadians. So they're.
This happens a lot if you're in Guard. See also Tanith.
Yeah, it does. They're in this big war, and they get attacked but she has to give a little bit of reassurance to the young Cadian.
Yeah.
And then one of the guns falls silent, and they get attacked by Tyranids, and she has to do some heroic action movie acrobatics to blow the Tyranid off the wall.
Yeah.
And they just about do it. Lots of people die. And
lots of people die.
But she does like she plasma guns the Tyranid's head off. And then we sort of that's her opening scene.
Also very horrific. The first thing you get is a Tyranid climbing up your gun turret into your face.
Yeah,
the horror does not let
good.
up.
Yeah,
the horror does not.
It does not stop from there. I would say it's interesting this book. Like the first third of it is pure action movie, and then it sort of becomes something else, which I quite like.
Yes.
Then we meet her little gang. So we meet her buddy, Rutger Haruto, who I consistently referred to as Rutger Hauer for the entire rest of this.
I've seen C-spans off.
They go, yes, I've seen C-beams off
something of Orion,
the shoulder of Orion. I've watched C-SPAN off the shoulder of, no. And they go, and Rutger Haruto's an interesting character. He's like huge, and he's big, and he's her like sergeant or adjutant.
Yes.
But he's also like the really logistical one. Like she isn't very good at logistics.
He's very matter of fact, no nonsense, logical.
Yeah. And she's like the more impulsive one.
Emotional.
And they go off and they go and yell at the local Cadian officer, because while this was happening, the Cadian officer has decided he's going to shoot for insubordination her best trooper Adair, who is like even for Catachan is like a
big.
massive muscular woman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ian's written down here, this is the brag.
Yeah, she's the brag.
Yes.
She is definitely the brag.
But can we talk about this annoying trope in every Warhammer novel? There's a massive combat going on and someone's trying to discipline someone else.
Yeah.
You've got to come and have your formal written warning.
Yeah, that's
what
exactly
are the bloody tyranny climbing up my
yeah.
turret?
Like, well, we can't have this.
Oh, bloody HR, leave it alone.
I know, there's a lot of HR and there's a lot of bureaucracy in the Imperium of Man. And there's this constant thing, you start it here, but there's a constant thing where they're like, well, I'm Acadian and we do things by the book, and this isn't by the book, so I've got to execute him. And they start their usual like, but we're Catachans and we're all independent free thinkers.
Yes.
And that's why we're so great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So then she gets called in. She sorts that out. She gets her trooper Adair back, who was like, I can't remember what she was doing. She's being a twat. And,
Up to no good.
Up to no good. And then she gets called into a briefing with the big general boss. And big general boss is like, right, you're going to take your team to Opal Bastion, the general continued. It's located approximately 50 miles east of the Cobalt Fortress. There'll be a liaison officer from the Cadian 82nd waiting there to guide you onward to the asset you are tasked with recovering. The asset is of immeasurable value.
What is it?
Classified, above your clearance, and
mine.
But you'll be escorting an agent adept of the Adeptus Mechanicus who will oversee the extraction. She just arrived via orbital lander with the final orders from Sector Command, thus giving you a reason to meet with her. You go.
They want me to take a cog worshipper on a tour of the apocalypse?
Khan pinched the bridge of her nose.
And what will you be doing while I'm out getting my squad ripped apart by Xenos, sir?
Yeah. Interesting point there. Neither of us have read the audiobook, listened to the audiobook, so I don't know if they're continuing with the time-honoured tradition of making all Catachans Australian.
Oh, no. What are you going to be doing while I'm out there getting my squad ripped on, you brass razoo?
Yeah, that's it.
Thanks,
Let's
mate.
continue on that assumption for the
I'm
rest
just
of this.
taking inspiration from Ian's Emperor impersonation. Look out for it.
Yeah, let's just assume that they are for the rest of this if we ever need to do another voice.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So we cut from this. So we've got our plot, right? Our action movie plot. We've done some action movie heroics. We've got the plot. There's a thing you need to find. We're not going to tell you what it is, but you have to find it.
Yes,
link up with a liaison.
the MacGuffin.
Oh, yeah, also, the MacGuffin. And you will link up with a liaison and also an AdMech person, and your team of potential arguments will go and find the problem.
But we were excited about a Mechanicus being in the story.
Yeah, we always like that.
Yes.
And also, you'll definitely be behind enemy territory. It's be very, very dangerous. Small group of people, lots of Tyranids. Okay, brilliant. So we then move on. We go to our second scene. We go to Anditz. Anditz is Acadian, and he's leading a sneak attack into a gene stealer infested mine. So they always infest mines because that's where they can keep everyone together. And there's the cult that have been calling the Tyranids, and they do a load of sneaky special ops action movie stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like, breach team to corridor 3-2. No, there's a Tyranid in corridor 3-2. Breach blast team to 4-7. And he has to kill another big Tyranid, but he does it with like driving a rock grinder into it.
Yes.
And more heroics. And they manage to clear the mine, kill the main Gene Stealer cult leaders, and they capture.
Wait. You've written all very kill team.
Oh, it's
Are
all
you
very
referring
kill
to
team.
the game?
Yeah, the game kill. It feels like a game of Kill Team. It really feels like a game of Kill Team. It's really well done. And they capture an enemy propagandist called Lamia, and she's like a singer that wrote songs and was singing them on public service radio that helped everyone become all Gene Stealers.
Yeah, like be a Gene Stealer. They're our friends.
We love arms.
They are not going to suck our bodies out.
Yeah, and
we love arms.
They love arms. And then he gets back to base with Lamia, and he gets the other half of the briefing from his commander.
Yeah.
And he's like, your orders are to escort a covert infiltration team to Magnus Rainer Stuhl's active excavation facility.
The tech priest who refused to evacuate?
Yes.
Sir, I believe the working assumption is that he's dead.
Correct. He is not of interest. But an asset of his facility is. I can't tell you anything more because I don't know anything more. And Corsi paused. But I get the impression that this asset could change the fate of the war. So,
We're in.
We're in. Go and do the thing. What's the thing? Doesn't matter.
Don't know.
And then he's told to go and
this is so
their
dumb.
fortress is going to get killed to a man, and they're like, right, this is so important. You need to go and lock yourself in the vault downstairs, where we've also happened to have locked the Gene Stealer cult person.
It's like,
and bar the door, and then we're all going to die.
It's like, I'll buy to Ian, of all the Warhammer YouTubers, only you can survive, go hide in your basement.
Yeah.
And then you just be like, hi, where's everybody?
And he goes and hides in the door, and it gets locked in, and that's that. Right, so... Also, he gets given a thing, right? So, frowning, he bent to open the trunk. His breath caught when he saw what it was there. His regiment's greatest treasure. And it's a little tin, but it doesn't say at this point how big the little tin is. So I was like, definitely a flag. It's a flag. It's definitely a flag. It's a flag of the regiment. Regiment flag. That's what it's going to be. Regiment flag.
I thought it was going to be like a little secret weapon, a bullet that they need right at the end or something.
No, it's regiment. I was like, regiment flag, going to be regiment flag. We'll come back to that later.
Okay.
So we go back to Khan and Rutger Hauer.
Okay.
And they're planning. They're going to go follow the army column, split off from it and go through the new jungle. Because one of the things they say is like, you're going to be sent into the jungle. And they're like, well, there's no jungle here. And they're like, no, there is now, because all the Tyranids have got these weird spore chimneys, so now there's jungle
The whole
everywhere.
planet is a character in its own right. There are Tyranids everywhere, there are spores everywhere, as well as these amazing gemstones just bursting out of the earth. There's loads of rotting trees and weird and wonderful flowers that will kill you and fauna that will bite you.
And what we meet, they meet, so they're going to peel. There's a big column going to another fortress. They're going to peel off and go all the way into the forest. But what they get a meeting from is the tech adept Wraith, who is a sexy hot tech priest, but in a totally different way to the assassin from the last book we did. Yeah, she's like cute tech priest.
Very cool. Yeah.
And she's like very perfunctory. She says, "I'll tell you what I know. Then perhaps you will accept the significance of what we do. Perhaps this is a necessary condition for your operational success."
Yeah.
Because she doesn't understand humans.
No emotion.
Least of all Catachans, who are the most human humans.
Yeah.
She smoothed her robe with her delicate silver spindled fingers. It was a strangely human gesture. She is human. Anyway, my mentor, Major Rainer Stuhl, has been operating every time. An excavation on Lazuli for a number of years. He was researching the geological phenomenon known as geoforming that took place on this world.
You mean the gem strata of the planet?
They're Australian.
You mean the gem strata of the planet? That was all engineered?
Haruto asked. Yes, a work of mechanical genius. And she's become Matt Berry, but okay, fine. Yes, a work of mechanical genius. There was a brightness to Wraith's strange eyes. Haruto watched her intently.
Go on.
Can
we just do this all day?
That's where my quote ended. Right, so sexy text with Wraith speaks like Matt Berry. Okay, so Haruto sort of sees the big picture.
Yeah.
Khan is never happy about anything. Then they put the rest of their team. The rest of their team's going to be Adair. As we know, because it's the only other known character, and Ghost Hassan, who's like a Catachan sniper. They all have like action movie names.
Yeah, like Wraith, Ghost,
Viper,
Khan. Yeah.
There's a bit where I was like, so they've all got these like Catachan like deed words or deed names.
Yeah.
And Haruto's called Viper, and I'm like, there's thousands of people in a Catachan regiment. So how many people in it are called Viper?
Oh, all of them. Come on.
It's not
Viper 1, Viper 2.
yeah. Is it like call signs? Yeah. Anyway, so we'll skip bits of it.
Ghost is my favourite.
Ghost. He's the only one where they refer to him constantly by Ghost, not like Trooper Hassan.
No.
But he's a sniper. He doesn't like being around people.
He never speaks.
No.
He's very he likes to be on his own.
Yeah. And they all ride in the tank. They get attacked. The tank gets attacked. There's a big scene with the Khan effects. It's great fun.
Yeah.
More heroics. And then they go off into the forest. Eventually, they escape in the forest. And pretty soon after going to the forest, they reach their objective and they rescue Anditz and Lamia.
Lamia is the dodgy gene cult person.
Yeah. And this involves Adair ripping a gargoyle in two, which I like, with her hands.
Yes. Adair is so strong. Bragg. I think Bragg is below Adair on the strength scale.
Khan wants to kill Lamia.
This is the beginning. Like, I was very cross. Lamia needs to be kept alive in order to help the squad get through the jungle and the secret passageways. But Lamia is one of those really annoying people that's still brainwashed and still can't see that the Tyranids are not angels.
Yeah, there's a bit. I like Lamia's inclusion in it because she does give you a bit of. We'll get to her in a bit, but she does give you a bit of the alternate thing. But she slowly goes mad through this as well.
Yes.
But and Lamia's like, I can help you. I was never part of the cult. They just made me sing all those songs. I can help you. And conveniently, some cultists come along, and she's like, "Hi, I'm the singer." And then everyone jumps the cultists and kill them.
Yeah, she is useful, but I mean, it's like when everything's very tense and you're all on the edge of dying, someone like that is going to get you more.
You've got to have a mad person in that sort of scenario.
Fine. I
You've
guess
gotta have
every
one.
A-team has its
Yeah.
Murdoch.
Right, so at this point, I've written here, this is the point where I think that so up until this, it's been quite a like fast-moving action, predatory sort of action movie.
Yes.
And then it sort of goes into a slightly different tone, which is we start the long journey to get to Rainer Stuhl's excavation facility.
Mm-hmm.
And it sort of goes from being like Predator to being The Road. Or The Last of Us, or like it's a harrowing journey through a horrible hellscape, getting more difficult as you go, as all the spores come down and the Tyranids eat everything.
Yeah, this is 100% what Ian says. It's a horrible, horrific journey. I think The Road and Last of Us hit it up perfectly. This is not a book for mirrors. I'm very proud we got through it. It's a great book, but it's scary.
It's really good because one of the things that you don't see this very often in a game in novels.
No.
Like it happens. Okay, so they've lost, and then the Tyranids eat the world, but you usually get the story at the other end when they're trying to save the world.
Yeah.
The fact that you never really see this, and there's a load of great things. I'm not going to go through everything because it is a new book and you should read it. But broadly, the sort of beats are they're heading to a place called the Tanzanite Cathedral because they have to realize they have to get a supply cache because they need respirators to get through.
You can't even breathe with all the spores.
Yeah. And there's a load of like they're following Anditz has been to Rainer Stuhl's facility before, so he knows the landscape quite well. He's been stationed there for a long time, so he knows the landscape. So he's their guide. They have to go to the Tanzanite Cathedral, but then they have to divert because there's these massive monsters.
Yeah, there's baddies in the way,
and they go. They get to the cathedral, but it's flooded, so they need to try and get some boats that they use for pilgrimages.
And the Catachans can't swim.
Catachans can't swim, but the Cadians can. So he has to do this solo mission to try and get the respirators and the boats. And he gets a couple, and he gets a boat, but then he realizes that all the bodies are piled at the bottom of the cathedral, flooded cathedral, with a big ET Tyranid in there that attacks him from underwater.
So scary.
It's really terrifying.
Yeah, scary.
They find more cultists who are all brainwashed. They're like there's a big theme in this of like the cultists have unknowingly called these Tyranids who they think are angels, and then are a bit confused because the Tyranids of course land and just start eating everybody.
Yeah. It says, the angels who have come from the skies and from the earth to purge the unworthy of this world. We fight for them, not your old gods. She laughed, pointing at Lanya. We have seen our angels eat your gods. I mean, it's all kinds of messed up.
Yeah, there's all these different... I think that might actually be some loyalists. No, that's some loyal... I can't remember. You get to the point where, like, it's just desperate people.
Yeah.
And they're... There's like loyalists going, oh, the Imperial Guard have come down, they've come to save us from the Tyranids, which they're not going to do.
No.
There's cultists who believe the Tyranids have come to save them and then just get eaten.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's horrific. They find a city on the way. They're moving through.
I think Lamia was worshipping the Gene Stealers as her
Yeah,
gods.
he is. Yeah.
And the other ones were like, no, the real gods are the Tyranids.
There's a scene where like some of them go and like they know the Tyranids are going to impede the mission, so they just go and attack a Tyranid and all sacrifice themselves. There's a scene in that where it's just bleak. They get to the city and they meet the survivors who are loyal, and they've all gone mad. They're
so you have a moment of hope.
Yeah.
And you think, oh yeah, we've met some loyal civilians, and they say, come on in, here's our altars to the Emperor. And they say, why is it full of crab claws? And they're like, oh, we're just showing the Emperor who the bad guys are here.
Yeah, they just piled crabs on the altar to show the Emperor that the bad guys are there. There's a guy outside, like, eating all the gems so the Tyranids can't have them and dying because they're eating the gems. Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, it's
weird
ridiculous.
Scenes inside the gold mine.
And then there's like a bit of a split. They get they find a bit of a signal. They contact the Bastion. The Bastion's holding out, and it goes, "Look, we know there's a what they call a shunt. It's really wild to figure out what this means for train.
Okay.
Yeah, a maglev. That some survivors came in on, and it's like an hour west of you. You could maybe get that. It might go to the right place.
Yeah.
And there's a big argument. Like Khan's like, no, too dangerous. We need to keep a low profile. And Khan at this point is like
losing it a little bit.
She's a bit like, fuck this mission. I need to get my people off. So Khan's like, no, we need to keep a low profile. Let's not do it. But Haruto and Wraith are like, no, we're going to go for the train. That's the best way. And Wraith is like, I'm going for the train. And Haruto's like, well, I've got to keep... someone's got to go with her.
And Ian thinks this is a love story.
There's a little romance story. There's two romances in this. Yeah. There's set up. It's never like over, but it's like really nicely done. There's no snogging. But there should have been. There's definitely some moments which should have had some snogging.
Yeah.
This is my suggestion for second Warhammer romance novel after Gothgul Hollow.
Yeah, I think, in times of trouble when you know you're going to die, have a little kiss.
Yeah. So they and there's a weird point where Anditz is like, what the fuck's going on? Why aren't you shooting him for disobeying you?
Yeah.
And they're like, we're Catachans, we do things differently.
Khan is completely distraught that Haruto is leaving.
Yeah.
And says, look, Ghost, go with them.
Yeah.
Which just shows her softness of emotions, and Ghost kind of runs off behind silently. Wraith obviously was going to go for the transport because Mechanicum.
Yeah, they love a good old train.
They love a train.
Yeah, they love a train. So Wraith, Haruto and Ghost go for the train, which turns out to be in like a baby Nid nursery.
There's a whole sack of baby bloody Tyranids and it goes all over them.
Yeah, there's lots of shooting. The train gets going eventually. There's loads of action hijinks while it's escaping.
Yeah.
There's bridges, there's flying Nids.
There's an amazing thing where they keep the train going long enough and then one of the Tyranids on the side goes in the tunnel.
Explode in the tunnel. Yes, that's right. The Tyranids on the top of the train, they drive into a tunnel and squash the Tyranid. Yeah,
so good.
There's loads of those bits. Haruto's injured. It's great fun. In the meantime, Khan, Adair, Anditz and Lamia do the walking route.
Oof.
They find a field of Cadian soldiers being digested in pink goo.
And they try...
Like a lake of digestive fluid.
So say like Ian came across just my torso going, I'm dying, and then tried to pull me out. And then
just the torso
my torso came out. That's what happened.
Yeah. And Anditz wants to save them and he's like, this is all pointless. Everyone's just dying. These are the last Cadians. And he opens his little box and it's Cadia dust.
Cadian dust.
Mushed up Cadia ground.
Yeah.
And he tips it out and he's like, there's some fucking Cadia.
This is the last of the Cadian dirt, and whenever anyone dies, they put a pinch of it. But when he saw all the Cadians, he kind of was like, take all my dirt.
Yeah.
Which is very, very heartbreaking.
And they keep on going through this. They end up in a mausoleum, a great big mausoleum on like a raised causeway through it. And they're attacked by these feeder beasts. They're attacked by a Gene Stealer who's wounded. They almost hurt the Gene Stealer. Lamia goes mad. She's like, the angel's hurt, the angel's hurt. And Anditz tries to save her, and then doesn't matter. Then they're attacked by feeder beasts, these big Tyranid thorns that are just cramming bodies into their mouths.
I was saying to Ian, I don't think I've ever met any Tyrannids this big.
Yeah, no, probably not. And the idea is they're just the things behind the lines that wander around eating anything and then run into the digestion pool and die.
Horrible.
And that's how you get it all into the digestion pool. And then a big Tyranid spaceship sucks it all up with a straw. As the feeder beast, and all the way through, they're like, they can't breathe because of the spores. The feeder beasts are attacking them. They're saved by Lamia gets killed because she won't leave the angel, the Gene Stealer.
No, she stays with the aliens.
And then they're saved because the train comes barreling through, and they all get on the train.
Hooray!
So they get to the Major's facility.
One thing I should say is I think they've realised while this is going on, the spores are making them ill. They can't breathe.
They can't breathe.
Old wounds are opening up in their skin.
True. Yeah,
the spores basically disassemble any healing your body's done, and obviously the Mechanicus is like, oh my god, I'm kind of made of metal. She's going rusty.
She's getting a bit rusty.
Yeah. All the bad stuff that could possibly happens in this one book.
Yeah, it's not fun. They get there, they have to shoot some servitors to get in, the servitors protecting it, and they've killed all the locals. All the locals have tried to get sanctuary in this Majos's place, and they're dead. And then they notice that the servitors that have been installed to man the gun points are Catachans. He's just taken some Catachan soldiers, yoinked them, and then servitized them.
Yeah. So you've seen all the last troops that have seen his...
At which point Khan is like, no, fuck this, we're getting in here, stealing a shuttle and leaving. I do not care.
No more mission,
going. And then they discover that the weapon is this weapon he's discovered is this giant terraforming machine.
Yeah.
Which is what originally built the planet, and it can't be removed.
Yeah.
But
it's not a weapon.
It's not really, but he had said that he might have found something that could help. And what it is he goes, right, the Haruto basically reports back. He's like, there won't be time to rescue anyone. There may not even be time for us to escape. We'll need to set the iris opening, that's the thing like above the shuttle, as we launch, and hope we make it out before either the Tyranids get in or the machine takes us apart. Realization rushed over Khan, a sick stomach-dropping lurch that felt as if it ripped out her guts. You're asking me to kill everyone left on this planet. Your comrades. You're asking me to kill a world. To which he says, to put a world out of its misery, sir. They're going to use the geoformer to destroy the entire planet, thus denying it to the Tyranids, but it will be destroyed.
Well, their point is, if this world is allowed for Tyranid breeding, they will literally just spread out across the whole galaxy.
Eat all this biomass. Yeah.
So,
So they do that.
This is at which point you realise they're probably all going to die.
Yeah, so, well, they take some data packets, and then at the last minute, they're like, come on, Adept Wraith. Come on. And she's like, no, I have to stay and manually operate it.
There's the trigger is a hand manual. It's one of those.
It's one of them. And they haven't invented the noosphere yet.
No.
So the shuttle takes off, and they escape, but the entire planet collapses behind them, killing everybody.
Yeah.
It's the typical Imperial victory there. Technically they win, but also lose.
Exterminatus.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's the book that we've done a little less detail because it's the new book.
We've
so
hidden
don't
a lot
spoil
of
everything.
detail.
There's lots and lots more to it. And
we do advise you read especially if you like Tyranids.
So did we like this? I mean, I think this maybe is a bit much for you, Mira.
It is a bit much for me. There's a lot of combat, which sometimes I find hard to get into, and there's a lot of like gross, eviscerating details.
Yeah.
A lot of loss of life. But one of the things I'll say is the writing is so descriptive. It gives me the ick. It's so ooky spooky, but at the same time beautiful. And you can imagine, you can feel these spores. You can see the world changing. I thought it was written amazingly.
Yeah, it's the descriptive stuff of the landscapes and the sort of the way in which this is invading the planet, which we never really get to see, is really nicely done.
Yeah.
I had a bit of a problem with some of the like when it started off as a big action movie, and I was like, okay, this is fun, but I don't know how much I can be if it's all like this. And then and I was a bit worried. And then it sort of turns into that more like, right, we're on a journey now, and it's just going to get more horrible as we go through. And I found more I couldn't have done an entire book of just the throwing grenades up Tyranids' noses.
No.
But it worked out. I found sometimes I was finding it hard to picture some of the settings are really complex, and I found it really hard to picture them sometimes. Like, it took me ages to realise that in the mausoleum, the causeway was higher up, and that's why they want to get... But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I've also put here, Warhammer romance should be a thing.
I've always said that.
It's a really good choice, I think, to make Catachans the humans, because they're a bit more human than the humans who usually are in 40k.
Yeah.
And there's some lovely little bits where they obviously all care about each other a lot.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of little jokes and a lot of people trying to really trying to help and calm people down and things.
Yeah. There's quite a lot of good humour in this book.
Yeah.
It's funny.
It's because the Catachan's response to almost everything, apart from Khan, is like, yeah, we've had worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had worse. Don't worry about it. Yeah, it could be worse. To everything.
Yeah. I mean, I think it gives so much more room to human relationships, having them relying on each other and forming friendships under the heat of tension, and they're going to face off against each other and say, I want to do this, I want to do that, but essentially they're doing it to look after each other.
Yeah.
So there is that friendship romance kind of potential.
And I think there's a couple, basically there's two little couplings that are like, you could see this. It's written like a romance. It never quite goes that far.
Yeah.
There's a thing between Adair and Anditz where he outranks her, but she's sort of subtly teaching him how to survive.
Yeah.
There's a bit where they reach a ballroom in the destroyed city, and she's like, Adair's lips quirked up mischievously. Come on, sir. Australian. Adair's lips quirked up mischievously.
Come on, sir. The Xenos don't dance. Only humans dance, and if the bastards stop us being human, haven't they won?
And Ditch shook his head. You're a philosopher now, too?
Adair twirled up to him in a mock dance step. There was something infectious about her grin. He didn't really know why he did it, but Anditz laughed. For a moment, when she moved closer, the smile she returned wasn't a smirk. He noticed that a fine scar ran from her chin over her lower lip up to her nose. And then the moment of levity was over as the sound of gunshots cracked out.
Yeah. It's that. It's like always on that cusp of like, oh, this could be going somewhere, but it's not.
No.
But, they do both survive though, so yeah.
Yeah. Who knows?
There's another thing, like when you were saying like the tech priest is getting corroded. There's a great one with them where there's a great it's like there's a trickle of blood at the corner of her lip, and Anditz wondered how damaged the tech adept was. Thank you, she said as she took the rebreather. Her voice was just as blank and mechanical as it had been behind the Vox grill. She gave Haruto a stiff smile, an expression that seemed half forgotten to her. He nodded as she placed the mask over her face, and her shoulders relaxed as she breathed more easily. He's given her a rebreather because she's got this like metal grill on her face, but they don't realise that she's a got a normal face below
Yeah.
it. It's just like a grill.
She's still struggling.
Why didn't you say you were struggling? Haruto asked. She frowned. It's a matter. I'm not going to do it. It's a matter of dishonor. Flesh is weak. That's why it's important, Haruto replied. The tech cadet gave him a strange look. The light filtered dimly through the half-ruined walls of the carriage and lit up her pale eyes.
Oh,
like,
crikey.
"Aw."
Will they, won't they?
Well, they won't they? They totally would have. So I've also put here Gem World.
I love the
World's a good
concept
idea.
of a gem world.
Gem world.
All the names, the opal, the cobalt, the lazilu, lapai.
The Pusala Pilapai.
I think lapai, easy for you to say. But I thought that the really beautiful literary conceit was the beauty of this planet that had been created through avarice, the greed and the foolishness of the planet who'd worship the gene stealers, then going into this decay, the rot, the alien infestation. Just found that beautiful literary irony. And I think it kept me going. The beauty of the writing, the beauty of like this despoiled landscape, the gross. I was so like attached to like how gross is this going to be, and then wanting to find out the secret. What is in the box? What is the MacGuffin? So yeah,
it was fun. It was really well done. I really enjoyed it. I put here, did you like all the getting at Mira? But we've already answered that question.
We're not going to be friends with anyone who plays Tyranids or Gene Stealers.
They're so cute.
So scary and horrific.
Oh, well, okay, right. So the big thing this book is sort of about is Catachans.
Yes.
What do you reckon of the Catachans?
I think they're great, mate.
Yeah. We've decided they're Australian. This is what I would like to know what the audiobook does, because so often they've been Australian.
Yeah, tell us in the comments. Did we get the accents right?
Oh, God.
Please, can any Australian not hate me?
There's this big thing about, like, no one really understands them. There's, like, Catachan poetry.
Yes.
Yeah, like, and they never say any, but they constantly refer to it. And it's just like, what? You guys write poetry?
Yeah.
And you never know if it's a joke.
And we'd love to hear that. We do get some poetry from the crazy cultists, which is a bit echoey of other religious-y bits and pieces.
Yeah, but not from the gang. I wondered if it was like Vogon poetry.
Well,
that's why.
Your option was, would you prefer Vogon poetry or Klingon opera?
Klingon opera. It could be like Klingon opera.
Klingon opera for me, please. All day, every day.
There's a big thing with them constantly about, like, nobody really understands them. They don't get them. But that's because there's an awful lot of, like, a lot of the thing is and it's being wondering what to do. And the Catachans being like, yeah, we're really cool because back on Catachan, if you're not whatever solves this particular problem right now, you're dead. And dead's not cool.
Yeah.
Like,
so the whole vibe is, if you live on Catachan, that planet's tried to kill you since you were a baby.
Yeah.
So you got this.
So you're fine.
Yeah,
you're fine.
Yeah.
You're not even worried. That's why they happen to be quite lighthearted all the way through
Not
this.
bothered.
Yeah. I quite liked, said earlier, I really liked the whole cultist Lamia thing.
My biggest thing in anything, and it comes from as young as watching Lost in Space. Do you remember when we were little? The Dr. Smith element. Mm-hmm. I cannot bear it when there's someone with a good party who is undercutting, sabotaging. It just stresses me out so much.
But the thing is, they get this thing where she's really arrogant for a start. So she's constantly like, this planet was beautiful and you, Imperial Guard, have ruined it.
Yeah.
You never took us, the Imperials never valued us enough. But a lot of the things she says are like kind of right. I mean, she's also quite a good foil for like the general reason. Like the big question is, why are all these cults? Why do people always fall to these cults? The answer is because the Imperium's horrible.
Yeah.
So she's got a great thing, which is like, do you mean the people that you and your cult condemned to death? Khan said coolly.
Well, that was good.
Yeah. Condemned to death, Lamia hissed. What do you call life under your Imperium? Endless toil in the grip of an iron fist. A miserable, choiceless existence solely to serve the endless hunger of your corpse lord. Oof. You think it's any better? You think any of it's a choice? She laughed, eyes wild. We're all being consumed by something. At least I had the agency to choose.
Shots fired.
Yeah.
I don't like it when they call him a corpse. You know that.
Corpse guard.
No.
And then they bring this, like, the politics of whether they should up. That there's bits where they come across this, like, moth
Yes, there's
conservatory of like
Yeah.
messenger moths that are ancient.
and the guy's holding the last two
Yeah,
moths.
but these you say that like the Imperium doesn't like its workers, but you treat these animals like shit.
Yeah.
and you're saying like in these pens they don't last 5 years; they're just there to make moth dust. So you know why don't you apply that to them if you're so worried about the little
No.
people?
In 40,000, whether you're a moth, a guard, or a tyrannid, you're having a bit of a shit time. No rest, even for a little moth.
But I quite liked it. I quite liked having that, like, it's part of the whole thing of, like, there aren't many novels that do, this is what it's actually like to be on the other side. There's a few novels written from the point of view of like Ascension Day, and that is written from the point of view of a Gene Stealer cult. And you can sort of see why, well, not the point of view, but you can see why they rebel.
Yeah.
Why it's tempting
Got it.
to be part of a cult. But there are very few that you see what happens afterwards, like how they react when the angels do come.
I mean, I've never read anything like this. Absolutely, completely exceptional. I remember a book in the 80s that was talking about what would happen if pollen came and everyone was allergic and had filters on all the time. Outside of that, I've never read anything like this. And it was very grotesque. It just completely reimagining an alien world, which is what sci-fi is all about. And also gave me some feels. I wanted to cry at the end. There were bits where I felt really teary. There were bits where I felt scared. So
Bits where you're like, kiss, kiss, kiss. No,
I didn't
no.
notice that as much, but maybe, yeah.
Now, it's difficult in a Tyrannid book to do a bastard scale because who do you choose? So I've chosen that swimming one.
Yeah.
The swimming Tyrannid. That's the only one. That's the only one I feel was like on the personality of bastard.
Actually,
unless you put Lamia in, but I don't think you
we
can put
have
Lamia
missed out the Magus. What's his name? The German one.
Oh, Rainer Stuhl, but he isn't there, is he?
No, but he sets up the alarm system.
Yeah.
And what happens?
Rainer Stuhl is a bastard.
Yeah, he's a big bastard.
Okay, so let's do bastard scale. Can have Rainer Stuhl.
Say why he's a bastard as well.
Rainer Stuhl sets up his thing. He protects it with loads of servitors, and all the survivors who try and go and hide out there and get off world, he just shoots and then he disappears.
And the servitors are made from
Actual Catachans, he's just yoinked and turned into servitors.
He dies. So
Rainer
he-
Stuhl. Okay, so bastard scale for Rainer Stuhl, absent Magos,
6.
6, and bastard scale for that one Tyrannid underwater.
That Tyrannid was terrifying, but Tyrannid's
Is he a bastard?
Tyrannid's just going to Tyrannid.
They're going to Tyrannid, aren't they? The Tyrannid's going to Tyrannid.
Yeah.
Nid's going to Nid.
I would just say, just don't go swimming in that pool.
Just don't. Yeah, I think if you go swimming in the Tyrannid pool, that's your fault.
Yeah, yes. You're going to get et.
Well, there we go. That was DEATHWORLDER.
Yay.
A novel by Victoria Hayward.
Yeah, Victoria, thank you so much for sharing your
Thanks for
crazy
sending it to
novel
us.
with us. We enjoyed.
We're going to talk to her, or obviously in the continuity of this show, have talked
spoken
to
to
her.
her,
Yeah,
yeah.
we've spoken to her and she's given us answers. Yeah. And we're going to continue to fly the flag for Warhammer Romance as a category. Up until then,
Also, I'm going to be looking at Warhammer Crime and Warhammer Police books.
Yeah, we are going to do that.
That would be amazing.
Because we need some policing.
Yeah.
And we quite liked Matthew Farrah's horrific After Deshea. So we might do a bit of Enforcer. Bit of Shera Calpurnia, maybe. Cool. Right. Okay. There we are. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us once again on a book club. We will be back next time without the Catachan half-ass costumes. And see you again, mate.
Bye.